Hello, Internet, and welcome to the free-to-play cast brought to you by MMOBomb.com, your home for all things free-to-play related. I'm your host, as always, Magicman. I've got a couple buds with me. One of them's new to the show. We'll get to him in just a second. And we're going to talk about games, drop our bombs, get your bombs and your feedback. So let's start it off with my buddy Havek. How are you?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
You sound calm today. Was it a good week?
Uh-oh.
Okay.
We'll wait till the bombs.
Oh, man.
Oh, you'll find out.
Oh, I can't wait. All right, we'll cover some games first, and then we'll get there. Also on the line, new to the show, brand new host to the free-to-play cast. I think maybe you've heard of this guy before. I don't know. So I think Havek, a couple people have heard of him.
Just a couple.
A couple. Spunkify, how are you?
Hey guys, I'm doing really well here. Maybe a few people here and there have heard of me. Just a little bit.
Just a couple. I mean, there's a couple people I'm sure that know you. So, welcome to the show. Again, welcome to MMO Bomb. I know you and I already did our little introduction thing. If you haven't checked that out, it's on the site. Spunkify and I spending some time in Brick Forest. But the way this works, Spunkify, if you're brand new to the show, you got to answer two questions for the listeners.
All right, I'm ready.
You ready?
Yes.
First question. What game got you into gaming in general? It doesn't have to be MMO or even PC. Just what was the game that started it all?
Probably the game that really got me into gaming would be on the original, Nintendo. I played a lot of, the Duck Hunt, and then I would go over a friend's house, and when he got, a PlayStation, we started playing, all the RPGs on the PlayStation, and then that kind of just got me into the groove when it comes to gaming. I dabbled back and forth with different consoles and PC gaming at that time, and then what got me into MMOs, I played a little bit of RuneScape here and there. I was kind of familiar with the concept of an MMO. But then, of course, World of Warcraft. I got into World of Warcraft during a couple months before BC came out, and I played all through BC and through Wrath of the Lich King and then through some Kata, and that really got me in my groove for MMOs. That kind of it's a lot of for a lot of people, that's how they got into MMOs was that or Ultimate Online if you're a little older and stuff like that.
Now, most hosts have mentioned some sort of regular Nintendo game, but I've got to admit you're the first one to mention Duck Hunt.
Yeah, because I was so poor that I had to go over to my friend's house, and he had Duck Hunt and Mario, and we played Duck Hunt, and sometimes we played Contra, and that's how we started.
And don't lie, you shot the damn dog that laughs at you more than you shot the ducks. At least I know I did.
I would just put the gun right up to the TV. I was such a cheater. I was screw sitting back. I'm going to cheat and make, get the best score.
Well, God makes
wait
the
a
best
second.
noise.
Wait a second. That's cheating, putting the gun up to the TV?
Yeah.
You're not not supposed to do that?
It always made that great noise when the tip of the gun slid across a glass screen.
Yeah.
Ting!
All right. Well, you answered both questions in one there. So the next one was the MMO, which you already answered. So let's jump into the news this week, talk about what's going on. So speaking of hosts that a couple people have heard of, a couple people probably heard about this game going into beta phase this week. Perfect World's Raiders. I know some people, RaiderZ, Raiders. Got it straight from the devs, it's Raiders.
I still call it Z.
I know you do. It took me forever to drop the Z on it, so I'm not worried about it.
It should be capital if you're not going to say it separately.
Finally, somebody that's on my side of this. Just make it small if it's all one word. All right, so we agree there. Good. So you played Alpha. I know I've seen your footage of playing Alpha before. Did you jump into Beta at all this week?
I haven't got a chance to jump in the Beta, so I'm not really sure what the difference is.
Well, there isn't one, but we'll cover that a little later in the topic.
Okay.
Havek, Raiders, you've been pumped up about it. So Beta's now here. It's currently running. If you played it in the Alpha, I'll let you know that there's not a whole lot different. I mean, they've done a lot of localization work as far as Korean text being made English and things like that. Overall, guys, what aspects of it have you enjoyed so far in your playtime? What haven't you liked? Let's just talk about that first. Things you like and things you don't in Raiders. Go ahead, Havek.
Well, where do I start? How about the fact that I can't play? Yeah. So I'm probably the worst person to have on the show today because I can't give any input on this at all. None whatsoever.
No, you can. I want you to keep going with what you're talking about here because you're not the only one having these issues.
Here's the problem as I see it. I understand that the free-to-play world, they have some restrictions, strictly, and a lot of it's probably based off of money. Now, the biggest thing is for some of these, if you're going to make something that's so hyped up and so big, like this game is and is going to be when it's released, make a Mac client. Now I know people are, oh well, don't use Mac. Well, it's not really that simple. I don't really use a Mac all the time. Long story short, I am for now, and I tried to load it on a virtual machine, and it was so bad I wanted to cry. I would press the W to move forward, and literally 3 or 4 seconds later, it was as bad as Age of Conan on PC when it first came out. That's how bad
why I wanted you to bring that up, and why I asked you to, was because their solution on their forums was, hey, we don't have a Mac client, virtual that bad boy into a Windows OS and go do it.
Wrong. Now, there's another option that I haven't tried, strictly because I just haven't had time to do it yet. Now, people that are familiar with Macs would know about Boot Camp, because I know people are going to start calling, well, Boot Camp. Yeah, I could possibly get it into Boot Camp. The reason that Boot Camp would probably work better is because with a virtual machine, you have the Mac OS running, a piece of software, then Windows running. So you're basically splitting the resources between several different options. With the Boot Camp, you actually select and boot into that particular operating system. Now, I don't know if it'll get better if I Boot Camp it. I'm having a hard time justifying making a solid partition on my hard drive just for a free-to-play game that I was really, if anybody remembers, I was extremely excited about it.
You were pumped about this.
So I just don't know if I could bring myself to do a hard partition on my hard drive, for a game.
So Spunkify, you played in the alpha portion. First thoughts.
Mm-hmm. So I really liked, of course, I'm a fan of action combat. I think that's the way MMOs are headed. So I like the fact that it incorporated that. I did feel, and I know a lot of other people were feeling, that it was a little rigid in the combat sometimes, especially I was playing a ranged class. I don't know if it was different for a melee, but for a ranged class, it was a little bit of, it felt like a little locked in place. I did like the kind of crafting system, I believe, when you could pick up items or crafting material, it would tell you like what you could craft with it, like what you could actually do. I really liked that system, and I thought that the monsters themselves were very unique and interesting looking. They weren't very generic in the common sense, like there was some generic monsters and NPCs, but a lot of it was pretty unique, and I liked that. I also liked the fact that they had like random quests that you actually, I think at the beginning you assumed a suit of armor or something like that, where you became a suit of armor and you actually had to like fight other mobs with completely different abilities because you were like this, super sentinel armor being or whatever. And that was kind of cool. I like that it wasn't just all typical quests where you go and kill and collect, etc. I mean, there was those quests, of course, but they did throw in a couple extra things to kind of fully take advantage of the fact that you do have this kind of non-target system, auto-target system, rather. So I did enjoy that. Would I play it after, I think I played about 5 to 10 hours of it. After those few hours, I could start to feel the grind coming in from it, which is really, something that it really plagues, of course, Asian MMOs. And, RaiderZ is, I gotta like stop.
I know, you just have to like relearn the whole damn thing.
But yeah, RaiderZ is no exception, After you get past, the novelty of, targeting all your spells and all that stuff, it still becomes a normal MMO in most respects.
It's a quest grind.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I totally agree. Now, the combat, everybody that's played action MMOs is going to be familiar with it. If you haven't played RaiderZ yet, don't think action in the way of, and I think a lot of people have a mind block on this one, don't think action like Rusty Hearts. It's not that type of very quick, very fast-paced action combat. It's more strategy, dodge-oriented, and the attacks were slower. I thought overall I enjoyed the beta. I will still play it because I'm interested in messing around with some other classes. My big disappointment on this, and I'll get to what I like last, that way I'm not just leaving Raiders on a bash note. Nothing changed from the alpha to the beta. There are a lot of issues in the game, quest bug-wise, and various things that I know, hey, I know everybody, it's a beta, it's a beta, it's a beta. I know it's a beta. But it's disconcerting to see things that were in the alpha and that were reported by many people still in the beta. That's a little disheartening when you see that type of thing, and then you see that localization is what was the prime focus, it seemed like, between alpha and beta. So it's a bit disheartening for some of the alpha players to see that they gave all this feedback, and most of these things weren't even addressed. It kind of makes you
think, like, why are they having the beta? Like, yeah, why are they having it if they have all these issues already addressed, and all they did was, like, localize a little more,
right?
And between alpha and beta.
And when I say issues, the game runs fine, it plays fine. We're talking about those occasional quest bugs and things like that. And I should preface the game runs fine with, if you can get in. Because that's been a huge problem with the beta. Not only not enough room or not enough servers and or room on those servers, which totally confuses the hell out of me because Perfect World knows exactly how many beta keys they gave out. How many they passed out to different sites to give out, how many they give out. So you can anticipate that at very most we will have X number of people log in. Every single one we sent a key will try to log into the game. And there's been people that have just been bounced, flat out disconnected. There's people that can't connect over and over and over and over again. When they do connect, I haven't had any lag issues on my side, so maybe I'm lucky, but there are forum talks about people having horrible lag to the point where the combat's unplayable. So there's aspects of the game that, man, Perfect World just really needs to buckle down on this, and I'm going to mispronounce it. Is it Mayet? Maye, if it's French, I don't know. The company that produces or designed it, they have some work to do here. Now, on the good side, I agree with you, Spunkify. I do like the strategic element of the combat. It's not blind button mash. You know, there is a strategy to it. I'm also with you. I've played both melee and ranged. There becomes a point when you're ranged, you might as well just go in with your staff and start swinging away. Because it just does about as much damage as your spells do anyway.
Yeah. I feel like spells a lot of times just offer utility.
Yeah.
Rather than damage.
Yeah, and a lot of that depends on your armor. You know, go with cloth and get the damage buff. Go with leather and you have more survivability, but you're not doing a ton of damage. So I know, overall, I will still play it. I will still check it out. I still want to see the cash shop. I want to see a lot of these issues that are coming up from alpha, that are still coming up in beta, addressed. I want to see connections stabilized. I mean, that's what a beta test is for, so lock it down. Get the connections and the server numbers and the amount of people online, lock that down and get it set up so that it's working. Final thoughts here. Would you play it upon release? Spunkify. I'm talking official release.
Probably not. Just simply because I feel like there are other alternatives, or there is an alternative specifically, coming from me at least, that I feel is more worth my time.
And what alternative is that?
That's Guild Wars 2. That's Guild Wars 2. It's Guild Wars 2, not, you know, it's been hyped and hyped and hyped and hyped, and a lot of people talking that, so I'm not going to, like, expand upon everything, because a lot of people already know what Guild Wars 2 is. But I think the thing that Guild Wars 2 capitalizes on is it doesn't feel grindy, it feels very unique, and every zone feels unique, and it feels like you're doing different things. And the combat, while not completely action-oriented, meaning you don't aim, still does require dodging and moving and some positions of skills. So you still kind of have that action combat feeling, because you do have to place some of your skills in right areas for them to hit. But it does overall, I think, do the whole questing experience and just in general the environment experience better.
What about you, Havek? Are you even going to bother trying to get in the game now at this point?
Well, actually, it's funny that you bring that up, because whenever you were talking about the lag, just logging on issue, before I could even find out that I was lagging so bad on the game, I'm actually starting to wonder if it's my machine or if it were just really bad lag, because I'm running a 2.4 dual-core i7 with 16 gigs of RAM.
Right.
there's really no, even on a virtual machine, there's really no reason that shouldn't run,
Yeah, and to be fair, I didn't have any lag. The game played very smoothly for me, and I've gotten 2 characters up into the teens on levels, so that was another thing, Spunkify. I don't know if you felt that way, but the character classes, they need more, or they need to diversify these 4 classes a little more.
They were very generic.
Yeah, they were very generic, and they've all felt like each other.
I mean, that's one thing. Like, for most Asian MMOs, like, they never really differentiate in classes that much.
Yeah.
They're pretty much always like a standard set of warrior, ranger, mage style class.
So what's your final word, Havek?
Probably not. Just simply because I don't really feel like boot camping and all the crap that I have to do just to get the game to work. Not for free to play. Maybe if it were a monthly subscription. I don't know. I doubt that too. But yeah, definitely not.
I'll play it again when it comes out, just because I'm interested in seeing what Perfect World does with the cash shop, because there's some aspects of other Perfect World games that I don't like what they do with the cash shop, so I'm interested to see what they do with RaiderZ. I think it's interesting, and even on this call, we kind of, or on the show here, we have the same type of diversity. You look at the forums on MMO Bomb, you look at the forums for RaiderZ. People absolutely love the game. People absolutely hate the game. People can't get in the game, so they're frustrated. And I think we kind of do that. I'm like, yeah, I'll check it out. Spunkify's just like, yeah, whatever. And Havek, who was so excited about the game, is just now saying, hey, if I can't play it, forget it. I'm not giving it a second chance.
It's just too much work.
We represent the forums, people.
Yeah.
All right, so RaiderZ, A Perfect World, check it out. Beta runs just pretty much till the end of August, like the 28th, 29th. Next up, Warframe, Digital Extremes. So we got a new trailer for this one this week. Spunkify, you excited about this one at all? You a first-person shooter guy?
Yeah, I am very much a first-person shooter guy, so I'm really excited for this. I like the co-op shooters that are available right now. Like, for example, right now you have like Left 4 Dead. That's probably like one of the most staple co-op shooter games. So yeah. I'm really excited to see a real AAA free-to-play shooter one, and it kind of reminds me a little bit of what's that series called? Metal Gear Rising, I think is the game's coming out with all the blades and the futuristic, and I really like that aspect to it. It looked really cool, like, and fast-paced. I'm all for fast-paced.
Havek, first-person shooters?
I'm not really good at them. When I saw this, see, it's funny that he said he saw a different game. When I saw this, I saw a completely different game. I saw Dead Space in this. That's what maybe I'm way off, but to me, watching the trailer, it really looked like just a co-op Dead Space.
Which isn't a bad thing.
No, definitely not.
I didn't see any zombie babies.
Well, no. What I mean is,
I don't know.
No, let me, okay, maybe I need to clarify. I didn't mean the actual, like, enemies,
right.
Just the areas that they show in the trailer. It just reminded me of Dead Space, but instead of you running to the end of the level, it's just like, I don't know, like a brick force where you have a designated area and you just stay in it and you shoot each other. But the level, I guess, that doesn't make sense.
Well, it does make sense because you're talking about a smaller level too, because they're all. This isn't like huge MMO, thousands of people running around. This is smaller squad-based combat. So it's you and 3-4 friends, however many end up being in a group. So think like a Ghost Recon online, where you're in those squads and you have objectives to move through. Here's the big thing about this, though, Spunkify. It's PvE is the focus here.
Yeah.
Which I love. I mean, I'm a PvE guy.
I have no problem with PvE shooters.
Yeah, I'm not really a PvP guy. But in the free-to-play MMO world, tell me one shooter that's had the focus be on PvE that's worked. Or been interesting.
I that is very true. But again, we really haven't seen any like Western developed shooters that are free to play that are PvE focused. They've all been Asian or Eastern. So in that respect, maybe the quality just hasn't been up to par, because I feel like there's a lot of replayability in buy-to-play, PvE shooters such as Left 4 Dead. And like Gears of War is also another one that has like modes that are PvE based, and tons of people play those. So I don't think that the market isn't there for it, or people aren't going to play it. I think really it comes down to the level of quality. You know, people haven't expected, people when they hear PvE content and free-to-play shooters, they expect something that's very, run-of-the-mill, basic enemies, basic
half-assed story.
Yeah, very, very, very simplistic. And I don't think that's what we're going to get with Warframe.
Well, the games you mentioned, though, to be fair, yes, they're insanely popular. Yes, they make a ton of money. But when you talk about it in the multiplayer frame, let's be honest, you're not playing it for the PvE. You're playing it to get in a group of a bunch of your friends, just run around and do stuff.
Well, can't that be the same with Warframe? Can't you just do a PvE with a bunch of friends in Warframe? I mean, it's the same principle, I guess.
Yeah, it's the same principle, but the PvE aspect is that there's some type of story or objective. Like when I play Left 4 Dead, I'm not paying attention to the damn story. Well, what little of a story there is when you're with a bunch of friends, and I'm just worried. I just think that Warframe's going to become that, and they're hyping up the PvE so much that, hey, we're going to make this so that it's interesting, the story is creative, you're going to like playing it, and I just really think that in the end it's going to turn into me, you, and two of our friends jumping in, doing this because we want to do it, not because we can't wait to see what the next story event is.
Well, I mean, that's how it is. Like, with the first time you played Left 4 Dead, you may have, like, paid attention to the story, as you progress through the campaigns a little bit. Yeah. The general story. And I think that's what's going to happen in Warframe is you'll pay attention a little bit to the story. It's good that they at least are giving a background to the story, like why you're doing this, because I do hate when shooters are just like, hey, you're in space for whatever reason, Yeah, so I do like the fact of that. And I'm actually excited.
Welcome to space. Shoot shit.
Exactly. I honestly think when this comes out and we do our first look for it, we should actually not do it as just one individual, but do it as a group, because I feel that would best, explain or do a detail for it. So.
Yeah, I definitely agree, because that's the way the game's meant to be played.
Exactly.
This isn't a jump in solo or try to find a pug. This is going to be you and two or three people that you know most of the time. This isn't click on a looking for group thing all that often, unless you've got just a little bit of time to kill. What do you think, Havek, about the whole changing environments, like the changing raids, the randomly generated raids for the 3 or 4 people in the group, so that it's not just go and run the same thing over again. It's constantly changing each time you run it. Havek?
That's actually... Hello?
Yep, I hear you now. Were you on mute?
No, I wasn't. I don't know what happened.
All right, go ahead.
Actually, I think that's pretty damn good, to be honest. So there's no possibility of campers if you're playing PvP, but PvE I don't really see. Well, I guess it would change it changes the whole concept of the game. Each level or each time you do it, it's slightly different or completely different. So there's really no, oh, I know where to go, follow me, let's go do this. So.
Yeah, I mean, and to pull it out into something that everybody's familiar with, all three of us have at one time or another, maybe we still do, play World of Warcraft. Take World of Warcraft and take, just take Blackrock instances, for example. Mm-hmm. And each time you ran it, things were shuffled around in different locations. The layout of the map actually changed. How much more interesting does Blackrock become at that point, Havek?
I would say pretty darn interesting. Mobs are at different places, completely different structure. There is no just going directly let's go, let's do this. We already know where we're going. It's a new. It's in essence, it's a new game or new instance every time you play.
Spunkify, you on the same page?
Yeah. I do have one concern about Warframe, and that is that, how do they expect to make money off of the game?
Mm-hmm.
Because when it's a PvE-oriented shooter, when you buy, what are you buying upgrades for, right? Are you getting upgrades in the game for harder missions? That could say, but what about, actually real cash stuff? The stuff that's the lifeblood of free-to-play, people that spend money so the game continues on. If you're playing PvE, are you going to actually spend that money to make yourself look a certain way when it's just PvE oriented? Or are you going to just, say, well, because I'm not actually fighting other people and I don't want to distinguish myself because it's only a group of 4 people instead of, 8 to 12 to 16 or however large a PvP match is, how do they expect to make that money? And then I go into, well, do they expect us to pay for extra levels or campaigns, or do they expect us, to do this or that? And so that's that's like the only thing that really worries me about Warframe.
Yeah, I'm with you, because I love, like Havek, I love the dynamic of things changing. I mean, I think that's great. I'm with you on the cash shop, though, because I can only see two things. Well, three. One being the cosmetic stuff off to the side that you mentioned. Everybody and their mother knows that's going to be there. The other two things that come to mind when I see this type of setup is content. You're either paying for expanded content or paying for additional levels or additional raids, or whatever the case may be, or you're paying for actual gear to conquer PvE objectives, which means at some point your normal gear isn't going to cut it, and you're going to need to buy that gear, which is essentially the same thing as making me pay for the damn content. So it's just the only real way that I can see them making some cash on that one. And there's not a lot of details out right now about Warframe. I mean, we have a trailer. Even their website is very, very sparse on information. If you go to Digital Extreme's website and look at Warframe there, you see a little bit more information, but not much. So obviously we're speculating big time on the cash shop. But it's, what else could they have?
There's not much else you could have.
I can't think of anything you could have. Havek?
I can't think of anything.
All right, so I think we've determined it's pay to win. Yeah? No?
Yeah.
No.
I do worry that like as you progress in the missions, there'll be a point where you just face a mission that is literally so hard that it makes people want to buy stuff from the cash shop, and like buy better weapons or whatever.
Exactly.
If that is, because like how else do you progress? If you can't,
that's
if your
my
standard
whole point.
weapons don't work. So
you either sell the content or you sell the gear that's needed to run certain content. At which point you might as well just sell me the damn content.
Yeah.
I'm excited though. I hope. I like Digital Extremes as a company. I like a lot of their products out there. It's going to be interesting to see what Warframe does. We're still looking at a winter 2012 release, so let's give it the thumbs up, thumbs down roundtable here. Havek, you first.
Kind of middle of the road.
I'm definitely thumbs up.
I'm sorry?
I said I'm definitely thumbs up. Sorry.
Yeah, I guess that's all I have to say. I'm kind of middle of the road. I'm not exactly sure how I feel about the game. It looks interesting.
I'll give it a thumbs up for me, and then it's such a big thumbs up that it surpasses Havek and makes his middle of the road a thumbs up as well, I say.
So 2 thumbs up, 1 middle of the road, but the 1 thumbs up is so big we average 3 thumbs up.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think we're allowed to do that.
All right. For me.
Last time you were on the show, Havek, we talked about this last news story, Phantasy Star Online. Sega.
Oh yeah.
Prior to July 4th, we talked about the beta and being able to play it and English patching and everything. When it released, we talked about it again. Released July 4th in Japan, and it had that lovely hacking incident where people started moving NPCs around to unreachable locations, which we thought was pretty funny because we weren't playing it. Wouldn't have been funny if we were. Spunkify, you just recently did a Foreign Friday on this. First off, what the hell is Foreign Friday? You got 1 or 2 episodes up. Tell the new viewers what that is.
Okay, so for those that don't know, Foreign Friday is a series where I take a look at a game that is currently only available in like Europe or any of the Asian countries, etc. And by Europe I mean like Russia, not way into that area.
You're talking about Eastern Europe.
Eastern Europe, yeah. So in areas where it's not in English for one, and it's not readily available for the European and U.S. or North American audiences. So for example, we started off with Phantasy Star Online, and then most recently we did Dragon Ball Online, which is of course a Dragon Ball oriented MMO based off the anime. So yeah, I had probably about 2.5 weeks I spent in Phantasy Star Online.
I'm a huge fan. I played it in the beta. I've played it since launch. Played the original Phantasy Star Online when it first came out for the Dreamcast, and then again on the GameCube, and then on the PC. So I'm a big PSO fan. I do like Phantasy Star Online too. Now, one of the important things of note here is, yes, there's an English patch for it, and a quick Google search will get that for you. Somebody shut that dog up. Whose dog is that?
That's not mine. I have no pets.
Well, I hope it's not yours.
Yeah.
There's one outside.
Ah, there it is. So a huge fan, PSO, love it. There is an English patch for PSO 2. Now, technically, to be fair, guys, we got to let you know, it is a violation of the user agreement to use it. However, it's one of those ones that they're unlikely to ban you for, so I wouldn't worry about it too much, but full disclosure, it is against the user license to actually use it.
Technically now it's a violation to even play it.
Yeah, that's what we're going to go to here. That's the interesting news this week, is that in the original beta, the user license agreement had a provision in there that said you could not access the game if you were outside of Japanese territory. And that was removed from the user agreement when the game actually launched. Last week, Sega put it back in, making it a violation of the user license to access the game from anywhere outside of Japanese territories. And there's actually talk about IP blocking this for anybody outside Japan. Havek, are they going too far here? Are they making the right call, given that there's going to be a separate European North America release in early 2013? What do you think about this? Is it right to change this aspect of the game after launch?
The way I look at it is, if it was in the agreement before,
in the beta, yeah,
in the beta, why it was taken out, I don't know, but it was put back. Really, I can't blame them. I really can't. If they're gonna be releasing something here, early 2013, really, like, you can't wait that long to play. Is it really that important? Is it that big of a game that you can't wait to play it? I get that it's going to be a relatively good game, and I'm being sarcastic when I say relatively good game. I think it'll be a pretty damn good game. But really, just let them do their thing. People have already messed it up by. Like, it's one of those things where, like, one bad apple ruins it for the group. They're pretty sure that the American-speaking people did the hacking. So, why wouldn't they be like, all right, you guys can't come over, you can't come out and play anymore, So I kind of get why they're doing it, and I'm not gonna lie, I kind of agree with them. I think
it's also because of the fact that they're losing money. I mean, American, players are way less likely to spend any money, if any money at all, because you can't. Because it's not the same currency. So they're losing so much money and putting so many resources into supporting all these American players playing, that, like you said, can just wait till next year to play the game. I mean, that's pretty quick turnaround as far as localization. Them coming out with the game late in middle of 2012 and saying, hey, the next version, the English version's available next year. So, I mean, that's a pretty quick turnaround for localization, way faster than we saw, like, RaiderZ. Takes, like, years to get here. So I'm not faulting them at all for that. I do think that those players who have, like, an account or have had an account since, like, the beginning, since the game first came out, should be able to still play the game, because they did invest a lot of time, I guess, in it. But I do feel like new players that are outside of the United States should not be allowed, or in the United States and outside of Japan, rather, should not be allowed in. Just kind of as, like, a simple courtesy to those that did invest that time already. They're kind of like, okay, we made a mistake. We let you play, outside of the U.S., outside of Japan. We'll let you stay, but no new players, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
that
it's also a drain on the actual servers for the Japanese players.
Yeah.
When people in the United States and Europe and things like that are in very high numbers. I mean, one person doesn't make a difference there, but in very high numbers are draining server resources and causing maybe more lag than is necessary throughout the entire tool. I'm kind of with you guys. I absolutely think, yes, you should be putting up an IP block if it's that big a drain and that hard of a service for you guys for Sega to manage right now. Given that you're going to release it in North America and Europe in 2013 anyway, I'm all for putting the IP block up, even though I like playing the game. Yeah. The one thing I will say on this, guys, is those IP blocks aren't up yet, and they aren't even official that they're going to put them up. Sega is just talking about it. So right as of this recording, who knows if that'll change by the time we put the show up, but as of this recording, they're just talking about it. But it is in the user agreement that you are violating the user agreement if you access it outside of Japanese territory. So, to my fellow Phantasy Star Online 2 players, let's lay low. All right, so this week, Alad's Online, World of Tanks, both got updates. World of Tanks is actually forthcoming. Alad's already got theirs. We got a ton of info on both of those over at mmobomb.com, so if you're an Alad's player or World of Tanks, make sure to check those out. What do you guys say we slide over and do the weekly bombs?
Sounds good.
Well, you are the guest, my friend Spunkify, so why don't you go first? Lead us off. Dub-bomb, A-bomb, what'd you bring today?
All right, I'm bringing a bomb to the new Firefall updates that just went live last week. So the Firefall updates, really good updates that were implemented, changed a lot of stuff, completely removed the medic class, implemented the biotech class, which is more of a, I guess, an offensive medic style class. It's less of just standing back and using a heal gun on people, and more of
is a biotech.
Yeah. The biotech is pretty fun. It's got a poison trail, and they completely got rid of levels, which is like a huge change for a game this far in development. I mean, to completely change the way you progress in a game, in this, usually at this point, that those systems are solidified for good. Like, that stuff doesn't change.
Yeah, that was one of the things we asked Mark Kern on our interview a few weeks ago, was what gave them the ability to make those types of changes this late.
Yeah. So, I mean, I really felt like it was, of course, for the better. Made the game a lot better and a lot more freedom in how you could actually customize your character. And I was pleasantly surprised by the rate at which you got XP and the rate at which you could spend it. You could probably spend XP on an upgrade on a certain class every 15, 20 minutes, if you really, did a lot of PvP or a lot of PvE, you really racked in that XP and you really could start unlocking stuff. So I really like the fact that I always felt like I was progressing. So I'm definitely going to give it to bomb, going to be playing it. It's probably going to be my PvE FPS MMO, because we of course got that, and then PlanetSide 2 coming out, and PlanetSide 2 is going to be my PvP MMOs. But for now, definitely giving it a bomb to Firefall.
I'm with you. I mean, I've always been vocal about liking Firefall and playing it. I played it an hour after the patch dropped. I finished downloading it, jumped in again. That spectator mode's badass, by the way. I mean, that is a very well-done spectator mode with tons of camera controls. And for them to implement it in a beta, like actually have that already ready in a beta, like so that way once the game actually hits, not open beta, because there is no open beta, but once it actually becomes available to everyone without restriction, then already they have all the tools necessary for like esports integration, which is a big thing that's growing now, in the US and Europe, is all the esports. We have League of Legends. So them already having that, I can definitely foresee tournaments and everything starting out. My only gripe right now, and it's one they're working on, is they just need more PvE. Yeah. They need more. You run out after about an hour, and then it just becomes resource gathering. I spoke to them at the last PAX that they were at. I spoke to them about that, and they said that they have actually a lot of PvE done. But they don't want to release it yet because this is, focused beta testing on stuff, and they don't want to give away what all they have in store, what all they have available. And they said a lot of the stuff that's in the melding area, that big purplish, that prevents players from going in there, is complete. Like, it's done. They just don't want to release it yet, because they don't want to jump the gun and people get bored before they even release it to the general public. Yeah, Mark Kern said the same thing on our interview. I don't believe them. They're telling everybody it's all done. I don't think it is. I think they're still... No, I have no idea. In a very, 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 very early build of the beta that I was in the beta from the beginning. They actually... The hub that was available for players to wade in, because at the time there was only PvP, was in an area that was completely different than what it is now. And it was already complete and everything. They just used it as a hub until they finished Copacabana. Yeah, it was not Copacabana originally. Yep. We were somewhere else. Yep. We shall not say where. I'm going to give out a da-bomb too. Age of Empires Online, a game we don't really talk about all that much, which is kind of unfortunate. I've always loved the Age of Empires series. The online version just implemented some serious changes. It gave it a lot more recent update, addressed a lot of issues that were in the game. Some of those issues have been in there forever. So if you're Age of Empires fan, or you played the online version and, like me, just kind of said, yeah, this is pay to win, I'm done, you may want to go back and give it a second glance now that some of the recent updates have made some pretty nice improvements. So that's all I got to say on that one. Nice job with the improvements. I still can't stand games for Windows and Steam and the two of them butting up against each other on games and forcing me to log into 900 different things. But that aside, Age of Empires Online, definitely worth checking out. The bomb from me. What about you, Havek? I'm afraid to ask.
I think I think you already know which one I'm gonna give.
I'm imagining it's an A-bomb.
It is an A-bomb. It definitely is. But it's slightly awkward. So you're gonna kind of have to bear with me. So I want to give an A-bomb to the person in the Ford Fiesta that almost ran me over the other day. Because and the reason I say this is because they clearly ran a red light. Now, I didn't get a really good look at the person, but they shot me this look like it was my fault. And I get to the other side of the street, and I'm thinking to myself, like, seriously, God, that's how you're going to take me out by a Fiesta? Really? Like, how embarrassing is that? I mean, seriously, could you just imagine for a second my family's shame? Like, if somebody's like, yeah, how did he die? You know, I'm sorry, how did he die? And my family has to say, well, he was hit by a Ford Fiesta. Really? I mean, come on. I would much rather people lie and say, I choked myself with my belt, like that dude from In Excess. Okay? Oh, yeah, it would seriously be less shameful. At least there'd be some dignity in that, you know? Like, they haven't made a Fiesta in what, like over 20 years? And there's still somebody that owns one that's actually driving it around?
Fast enough to kill you.
Fast enough to almost kill me? Like, really? So,
nice.
A-bomb to you, you jerk. But I do want to give a shout-out to somebody that... I'll do it a little bit later when we get to... when we finish up everything.
Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to give a shout-out to Emmanuel Weigar. I hope I'm saying that right. He came and liked my DJ page and sent me a nice message. I wanted to, say hi to him, and hopefully he's listening.
All right.
So, I told you I wanted to wait. Now there's like an awkward silence. Like what I told you, hey, I'll do it later, and you're like, no, do it now.
No, go ahead, do it now. We've got, let's go to the member bombs then, so we can forget about the Ford Fiesta.
I'm glad you find my almost death funny.
I do. I'm sorry. And now, had it been your death, it would have been shame that I felt. But since it's almost death, it's amusement that I feel.
Yeah.
The Wicked Ben says, hey, A-bomb to Spirit Tales because you can level to end content in less than a week, and they only focus on male character creation. For example, all of the male spirits were a lot better looking and awesome than the female spirits, which was just a bigger female floating. Dub-bomb to Guild Wars 2, one of the best games I've ever played, though I only played the beta. Well, that's pretty much all anybody's played so far. PvP was awesome. 500 versus 500 people battles. Bring it on. That's from the Wicked Ben. I got to agree with the Dub-bomb. We're all fans of Guild Wars 2 here. I've gone on record and said that Guild Wars 2 will not live up to its own hype, but that's because I don't think any game could live up to the hype that Guild Wars 2 has had, but it's a damn fine game. So I'm hugely looking forward to it. Spent a lot of time playing that in alpha and beta. And Spunkify, you already mentioned you're a fan. You're waiting for release. What about you, Havek?
For Guild Wars 2?
Yeah.
I'm excited. Yeah.
Spirit Tales, yeah, I could see that. When I did the first look for it, the leveling was incredibly quick. And then I think that was one of the points I brought up, that was, you're going to have to drop content on a regular basis here because the leveling's way too damn fast. Did you play that one at all, Spunkify?
I did, actually. I did a video on it, and to me, I was like, this feels like I'm playing like Eden Eternal, basically.
Yeah.
And I was like, Eden Eternal has way more content in this game, and it almost felt like it was targeted towards like a really young audience, one that wouldn't mind so much the level capping really low, and they've been really fast, and people that have like really short attention spans. But overall, I didn't feel like it was any kind of MMO that would have like a long, fruitful future just because of the fact that it didn't have a lot of content. It was very much stuff that we'd already seen before.
Yeah, and remember that it's not an original game. I mean, it's just a North American version of a previously released game that Quorum Game is using to kind of test the market in North America. So I guess you kind of already have that when they're telling you, hey, it's nothing new, we're just copying a game to see what we need to do to operate in North America. Then, yeah, I think you're going to have that there's nothing new.
Yeah.
Terranova667 says, great show, Magicman. I have a dub on for Raiders. I've been playing the closed beta, and it's great, extremely fun game that has the potential to be one of the best free-to-play MMORPG games out there. If I could give it one criticism, it would be the lack of a ranger-style class, be it with bows or guns. Hopefully one day it will be added. As for the question of the week, last week we asked our viewers, Spunkify, if based on World of Warcraft losing 1.1 million subs and Star Wars going free-to-play, was the subscription model now dead? Terranova667 says, for the question of the week, I would say the sub-only MMO is dead. I think it will still do okay if it has a free-to-play option running alongside it. So sub by itself, Terranova thinks is dead, but a sub could survive with a free-to-play option. We'll get to your guys' opinions on that when we finish up the viewer bombs here. Randy Blythe, dub bomb to BioWare for making Star Wars free-to-play to a point. I just wanted KOTOR 3, and while it's not quite that, it's close enough for me. Rating in tab target games has died. Not that it's a bad model, it's just everyone and their mother has rated in WoW, and everything gets old at some point. A-bomb to Activision for making Blizzard tank. Literally, once they took over after BC, WoW went downhill and crashed into a fiery blaze. Second A-bomb to the 900,000 cash cow pay-to-win games, such as every PvE game out there, and every browser game that has copied another. Have you seen all the games are exactly like another, but reskinned? That's 100% businesses trying to milk people out of their money. Randy Blythe just dropping some inflammatory comments left and right. Real quick, I agree. SWTOR free-to-play is exactly what people that wanted KOTOR 3. That is who this is a perfect free-to-play model for, I think. If you wanted Knights of the Old Republic 3 instead of the Star Wars MMO, I think Spunkify, this is the best free-to-play model in the world for you. You get 1 through 50 and you get all the story. If that's what you wanted, there you go.
Actually, sorry, actually said 3 times. I actually subscribed to that.
Actually,
yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, you go ahead. You go first.
Blah, 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 blah. I said I actually subscribed to it for the first month. I bought it and subscribed to it. Got to level 41, didn't realize that. Well, after I finished the main story of my class, that it was just in my opinion, even subpar MMO from today's standards because there was a lot of issues with like latency on abilities. And the end game was lacking at the time, and I feel like even now with it going free to play, if people want to see the stories and everything, and they're really big lore buffs and story buffs, then yeah, it'll be a great free to play MMO. Yep. But for those that actually want like a normal MMO experience, right now I don't think so because you can't do any raids, and you can only do a limited amount of PvP and PvE and end game every week if you're just a free to play user. So that's kind of like a semi free to play option, but not really. So I don't know.
Yeah, we talked about it as one of the news stories last week with Domina and Jess Brohard on the show, and that was my whole point, was this particular free-to-play model that BioWare and EA's come up with, if you wanted Knights of the Old Republic 3, this free-to-play model couldn't be better news for you. You get the full 1 through 50 experience with the whole storyline, with all the classes. You're limited on race, but you can play any class, so great. More power to you if that's what you wanted. If you wanted an MMO with endgame experience or whatever, you're shit out of luck on both counts. Because not only is it not free, but the game doesn't have it. And that was my own, and I'm a Star Wars fanboy, admittedly. I subscribed for months, got to 50 very quickly, started raiding, tore through it, and had nothing left to do. What about you, Havek? I know you played Star Wars for quite a while, too.
I did. I liked it for a while, and I'm not even a big Star Wars fan. There's definitely a lot of lore to it. Even if you don't know that much about Star Wars, it does a good job that way. But Actually, I quit not too long ago. I just couldn't get into it anymore, couldn't justify the subscription. Now that it's free, I won't lie, I'm probably not going to go back for the same reasons that I can't play Raiders. It does not have a Mac client. So
there you go. I don't even want to touch Randy Blythe's pay-to-win games, such as every Perfect World Entertainment game out there. Either one of you want to touch that one with a stick? Yeah, that's what I thought.
No. I'm good. I'm good.
Randy, I'm sorry if that's your opinion, brother. I know there's a lot of games out there milking money, but I think blaming it all on one company is gonna piss some people off. Thanks for the feedback. Let's go to the weekly questions from the viewers last week. Knowing the troubles SWTOR had and the fact that WoW lost 1.1 million subscribers, Havek, is the subscription model dead?
No, actually, the 1.1, 1.5 million, whatever it was.
1.1 was how many they lost.
The way I look at it is this happens, maybe not to this extent, but there's always, right before, and especially after they actually announce when their next expansion is coming out, everybody just kind of dies off. They want to take a break. Yep. You know, I've seen it personally playing WoW, and I'm sure both of you who have both played WoW noticed the same exact thing, that every time once they actually announce the expansion, people just start dropping off. I mean, in the guild that I'm in, we used to be able to do 25-man and have a whole bunch of people left over. Now we can only do a 10-man. People want to take a break, and especially once you've already achieved or have hit endgame content and have run through all of it, so you've seen all the bosses and everything, it's not anything new. Now, will they get that 1.1 back with the ridiculous expansion? Excuse me. Expansion I think is ridiculous. The Pandoras or the Pandas. I mean, really, Blizzard?
To be fair, Pandas were in Warcraft 3.
Barely. They are part of the lore.
They are part of the lore. They didn't just pull it out of their butts and put it in there. Like, it is actually part of it.
I don't disagree, but barely. Now, with all of the things that they could have done, that's what they went with. You know, like, okay. I don't know if they're going to be able to recoup that many when the expansion comes out. Like I said, normally, every time an expansion, and especially after they announce it, people want to take a break. They want to go spend time with the family, beat the kids, you know, whatever. So I get that. I've never heard of it at this magnitude, and I honestly don't think they're going to get all of the people back, because I know a bunch of people actually quit and said the panda idea was ridiculous. They don't want to play anymore. So you may get about half of them. We'll be generous and say half of them back.
I think they're going to get a lot of them.
I don't, man. I completely disagree. And I think you are borderline retarded to say that they're going to get a lot of them back, just from playing and just from talking to the people that I've played with.
Yeah, I know it may be ridiculous, but I think they're gonna get a big portion, if not all of those back, simply because we've said it before on this show, and Spunkify, you can pick who you're going to agree with here. I just think WoW is the Facebook MMO. It's the one you always go back to because most of your friends are playing it, and even how many people do we know? I mean, Havek, we've been in the same guild for a long time. How many people did we know that right before every expansion said, "Oh, you know what? I'm not coming back." They end up coming back.
I mean, I get that. I know that there's going to be a bunch coming back, but I'm just basing it off of some of the people that I've talked to, that they're like, I just don't like the whole panda idea. It just looks so dumb. It's now maybe they will come back. No. But based off of the people that I've actually talked to, they don't really seem too interested in coming back to a panda. Like I said, 1.1 mil, I don't think they're going to get them all back. I'll say maybe they'll get about half of them back. And like I said, I think it's completely normal. I don't think the pay-to-play model is dead. I really don't.
All right, Spunkify, your turn. We turned it into 2 questions now. Is WoW getting 1.1 million subscribers back, and is the sub-based dead?
Okay, so in this case, I I think sub-base is dead, except for WoW. Like, it really, I mean, sub-base as a model for other MMOs has obviously failed, and newer MMOs, rather.
I edit what I said to what he just said. I think it's dead except for WoW. I really agree with that. I really, really agree with that. Sorry.
Yeah, it's just because like everybody's so used to paying for WoW, they're like, well, you just that's how it is. You just pay for WoW. Like, but everything else is like, no, we expect free to play. And I don't think, WoW. I think WoW has seen its prime. Obviously, I don't think it's going to actually go back to how its max amount, which was like what 14, 12 million.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying it's going to get
whatever
anywhere near 12 million again.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they've lost almost 2 million subscribers over the course of the last, 8-9 months. They've announced 3 different times, different losses. I just think they're going to get a big portion of that back.
Honestly, I think that their model of how they produce content is flawed. Like, I think they produce content, like, fairly regularly while the expansion is actually, going on. But even then, it's, like, every, 5-6 months or something like that. They did get a little better with the last expansion, though. But after that, it was like a lull of almost a year, between expansions. You're just face palming over there. Like, of course people are going to leave. And meanwhile, you have free to play MMOs producing content on a fairly regular basis, and providing something that they're not, providing extra content that Blizzard is just not, granted that's not how they do things, but that's the world is changing. You got to adapt.
Yeah, not to mention that WoW subscription numbers are the most flawed statistic I've ever seen in the world, given the way, the per-minute game time cards that are used in the East, given the way that those are counted as subscriptions. It's just a ridiculous number to begin with.
Also, think of how many people are subscribed but don't actually play. They just subscribe because they're still subscribed.
Yeah. Well, Mountain Dew says, as much as I dislike subscription models, I do not think they are dead. In my opinion, they're still the best way to make money on a fully flushed-out product. When it comes to products that do not stand apart from the others, those are the ones I see going free-to-play. Not saying all free-to-play games could not work with a subscription model, just most. I think that's a well thought-out point of view.
Honestly, I think, going back to Guild Wars 2, I think Guild Wars 2 could have gone, pay-to-play if it wanted to. It has that level of content and quality.
Okay. I agree content-wise with you that they could have. However, I don't even think it was ever something that could have been an option, simply because Guild Wars 1 was not.
Oh, yeah. I'm saying in an alternate universe.
In an alternate universe, if it was its own game, I agree with you.
Where Guild Wars 1 started out as pay-to-play, or they just didn't make Guild Wars 1. It just came out and, this was Guild Wars. It would have been pay-to-play, and it would have done fine, I think, because it is that level. But just the fact that it is buy-to-play just makes it that much better, and the fact that you're not going to have to pay for, content updates for a while is really something that I feel is going to be a deciding factor whether or not Guild Wars 2 overtakes WoW. I do think it's a possibility, given a couple of years down the road, if Guild Wars 2 remains what I think it's going to be, that it definitely could begin to be the number one MMO, with WoW being, second in that place, until Project Titan / Facebook MMO comes out, whatever it is. And, that is a whole nother story. So
this question kind of divided the listeners last week. There were all kinds of point of views. Yes, no, maybe, yes with qualifiers. I mean, it was all over the place. 129 Das says, yes, sub is dead, mostly because you don't own a game. If you sub, you rent it. They will have the odd exception, EVE Online, that is mostly because of the hardcoreness of the game. It's a different type of game. I don't think that's... I agree with the overall concept, but I don't think that's why EVE is able to survive as a sub-based game. I think EVE is able to survive as a sub-based game for the same reason that Terra will probably survive as a sub-based game for a while, is that you can actually get game time through gameplay.
That's kind of an interesting wording on it. You don't really own it, you just kind of rent it. It's not too far from the truth, to be honest.
It's not the truth. Yeah, it's totally the truth.
Yeah.
You don't pay, you can't even access it.
Yeah.
Vince Kamenev says, part of the reason why subscription models are becoming fewer is because the economy in general is just that bad. People can't put down the cash to pay up monthly fees to play a game regardless how much time per month they play. I personally play EverQuest 2 and Champions Online. Champions tops it off. EverQuest went free-to-play because it had an awesome run, and it was simply time for it to convert to free-to-play, while Champions has always been. Personally, if they do free-to-play, they should look at Champ's free-to-play model. What do you think about that one, Spunkify, the economy? And we see that a lot on like our first look videos and things where somebody will bring up a pay-to-play game and then somebody else will say, well, not all people can afford that. And then it starts a troll war back and forth. But is that a valid concern, do you think, the economy and being able to afford the subscription?
I think it's valid in some respects, but not in all respects. There's a lot of people that are like, oh, you know, free-to-play games is much cheaper, you know, but then you have people that plop down $100 and, you know, on cosmetic stuff in a month, and you're like, well, that's more than a subscription, you know. So it's two different kinds of people. Like, there are those people who, like, can't spend that money, so free-to-play is, like, the option, and they specifically spend as little money as possible in that game and enjoy their experience. And then there's people that can afford a, you know, $15 monthly thing, but choose to play free-to-play because they just like the idea that they don't have to pay. But when they are going to pay, well, by God, they're going to drop down $100 on everything they could possibly see in the game. Which I think is like what people are doing in Team Fortress 2 right now. It's like, everybody's get those hats.
Updates coming.
Yeah, man versus machine. I'm excited for it.
Rack Videos. And I must say that a lot of pay-to-play games simply overcharge monthly fees. So here's one that doesn't think subs are dead, but thinks they need to be tweaked. Rack Videos goes on to say, I feel as if they charge maybe $5 a month instead of $15 to $20, they would greatly increase and work well. Not many people want to pay $15 to $20 a month to play a game, but $5 to $8 seems to be more well and would do better than both models. So there's an interesting take on it, that subs aren't dead, but they're going to be dead if they keep the high price point.
But see, they can't lower it because of the economy.
You absolutely can't lower it.
They lower it if you lower
Dev's
it.
got to eat.
Yeah. You're not counting, you know, WoW's been out for like, what, 6 years now or something, 6, 7 years, and you're not accounting inflation over that time. You know, if you lowered it, then you would end up making less, you know, money and not even being able to pay for certain things. Of course, they've made the money that WoW, you know, it took to produce WoW over and over and over since then, but it just doesn't work to start off with a lower subscription fee because of the fact that if you are a new game that's using a subscription fee of like $5, then it's most likely you're gonna barely cover the cost of just running the game and all the production costs. So,
Lord Destiny says the subscription model is dead because nowadays there's so many free-to-play games to choose from that we can have fun without paying a cent. That's a pretty dominant viewpoint out there. The free-to-play market is getting bigger and filled with better quality. I mean, look at Crytek, you know, saying, hey, we're going to go exclusively free-to-play from now on as soon as we finish all of our current box model contracts. We're going exclusive AAA free-to-play. EA, you know, president of labels saying that was the future. I mean, they went from making $400,000 per week on free-to-play games in fiscal 2010 to making over $6 million per week in free-to-play in fiscal 2013. So even EA is like, yeah, okay. Free-to-play is where it's at. Mr. Noso says they should have never shut down Star Wars Galaxies and replaced it with a shithole game they call Star Wars The Old Republic. Yeah, I played Star Wars Galaxies for quite a bit and was pretty into it and was disappointed. I was sad when it went away, but I could see, you know, LucasArts not wanting two of their own IP sub-based MMOs competing with each other, and so probably Sony's negotiations there would have been weird. I just think it's odd that they said, oh, Star Wars Galaxies we couldn't make it free-to-play. It would have been too hard to convert to free-to-play. And then Old Republic comes out after Galaxies gets killed, and now Old Republic is the one that ends up having to go free-to-play. I just think it's very weird, that whole situation there. And, hey, maybe with Star Wars The Old Republic free-to-play, maybe Sony should see about getting Star Wars Galaxies back up and running and recontracting the IP. 2 Star Wars free-to-play games, that's money made in heaven, isn't it? I mean,
there's probably some contract where like they can't have both of them running or something, like some crazy thing like that.
Oh, no, definitely. I mean, that was the whole point in Star Wars Galaxies. That's closing down on December 12th, and then 2 weeks later, Old Republic opening. that's why I said before, Sony Online probably had a difficult time with those negotiations.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, interesting point, Mr. Noso. I miss Galaxies too, especially given what happened with SWOTOR. So question of the week for the viewers. We've gotten a lot of requests to do some free indie games now that we've talked about Slender and things like that. So this is your chance to bring it to everybody's attention. What is the best free-to-play indie game? It doesn't have to be an MMO, but it does have to be free-to-play, that you think all MMO bombers need to check out. Put your comments below the video here. Make sure while you're there you rate, you like, you subscribe. You come on over to the site, check out the forums, have some fun with us, hang out with Havek, Spunkify, and myself over on the forums on the website. If you're listening on iTunes, please make sure to give us a review there. Help us with moving up the charts there. Let's throw it around for the final word. Havek, you're up first.
I got nothing. Just follow me on Facebook, DJ Havek, Havek, and I also just started Twitter. So DJ Havek on Twitter as well.
Awesome. Havek, E-K.
Yes, sir.
E-K. Spunkify, where can all the listeners follow you and see your work and hang out and chat with you and all that jazz?
Well, besides MMO Bomb, I have, of course, Twitter, which is twitter.com/Spunkify, and then I actually have a secondary little YouTube account where I do like gameplay that doesn't fit in the scope of MMO Bomb, and that is youtube.com/Spunkifiable, F-Y-I-A-B-L-E. And that's where I do random gameplays of other games, usually horror games, because people like to see me scream on camera. So I actually did Slenderman.
Usually what game?
Horror games.
Oh,
horror.
Horror.
What do you think I said?
Oh, I don't know. It sounded like you said some type of game I didn't know YouTube would let you put up.
I like where this is going.
Horror.
Yeah. I think those are only in like Japan, those kind of games.
Well, guys, for Havek and Spunkify, I'm Magicman. You can hit me up on Twitter at Magicman1. That's MAGICKMANN1. You can send me an email at magicman@mmobomb.com. Don't forget your weekly bombs there. And until next week, guys, stay safe, and we'll see you out on the servers.